Hey everyone, this is Nolan from Natty Nolan Yu-Gi-Oh! Before you watch this video, I wanted to come in, this is future Nolan, come in and give a little bit of a preamble here. I wanted to let all of you know that for the foreseeable future, at least for myself, I don't know about Natty, but for myself, I am not going to be playing anything meta in the future. So I'm currently in the place where I have some meta relevant decks as far as this format goes, like Draco Tail, Mitsurugi, and those are the decks, the last meta decks I think I'm going to actually buy support for. Otherwise, I will be purchasing and playing off meta or rogue decks like Magnificestorming, combining that with Tri Brigade, you get the idea. So what does that mean for the channel? It just means that you're not going to see a lot of meta play. It means that for the future, besides Mitsu and Draco Tail, there's not going to be much else. We are going to try to get back to locals vlogs. We're going to try to do regionals for Philly and Catskill specifically because we're just tired of driving everywhere and the new time rules make it even worse. So we are stepping away from meta. We are going to start focusing more on locals and off meta rogue tier 2 play. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted you guys to know that moving forward into this channel and into this video that this may in fact be the one of the last regional videos you see for a while, because otherwise we'd be waiting for another regional at Catskill or Philly, which I don't know when the next one is. I haven't checked, but I would imagine since this one was this was September 14th. It's now the 22nd. I still haven't checked, so it's probably going to be a while. I haven't heard anything from my team or my friends, so that's what we're looking at. I just want to let you guys know what was going on. So that's the future of the channel. Just again, focusing more on locals, tier 2 rogue decks, trying to make the most of them, trying to make them competitive enough so that way when regionals do come around, we can take those decks like Magnificestorming, combine them with Tri Brigade, see how well we do, see if we can top, even top 64, be good with those decks. But as far as meta play goes, I personally am not going to buy any meta decks anymore. I just, speak with your money. That's the message here. But that's it. Enjoy the rest of the video. See ya. Hey everyone, welcome to the deck profile. This one, if you're coming from the Team Takeover posted video, then this one's going to be a little bit more in depth. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So yeah, as you can tell from the title, I got 38th place at Philly Regional with Nadir Mitsurugi. It's not a full Dogmatica package like some people thought. It is just the Nadir Servant and another card. I'll explain. Just hold your expectations. So I'm going to start with the hand traps. I played 3 copies of Fuelos, 3 copies of Perulia. Fuelos for the event was not nearly as good as Perulia. At the Philly Regional, there was a much higher percentage of people who were playing Yummy and Vanquish Soul Canine. And most of my matches were Vanquish Soul Canine, Yummy, and also Raizio Mitsurugi. So Perulia put in a lot more work, and I was very grateful that I saw Perulia as much as I did throughout the day. Most of my matches, whether it was game 1, game 2, or going into a game 3, I did see Perulia very often, which was awesome. I will say when I saw Fuelos, did I draw a card or two? Yes, but that was way less in terms of how useful it was in whole matches than Perulia was across the board. So I'm thinking of actually siding out the Fuelos. I do think it deserves a spot in the deck as a whole. I don't think it possibly should be in the main deck. It didn't really serve much of a purpose overall. The last hand trap I played was 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. I didn't want to play something like Ash Blossom or Effect Veiler because I'm already playing pretty hard into Triple Tactics Thrust and Talents if I activate Fuelos and Perulia. So I elected for Infinite Impermanence, which did put in a lot of work. I can say I like this more than Ash or Veiler in the main. Infinite Impermanence just felt like a better card overall, especially if I had to pick one hand trap or a board breaker or something. Infinite Impermanence seemed like a good pick. Hey, so future Nolan here as I'm editing this. I think that at the end of the day, choosing the infinite impermanence over the hand traps was actually a good idea. Because I was thinking back to the tournament and how often I would get hand trapped. And yeah, I was playing pretty hard into the other, like tactics, thrust, that kind of stuff. So I actually think Imperm was the best choice considering I was main decking 6 Charmies, and I was hit with tactics and thrust pretty often throughout the tournament just because of that. Now, the Charmies would pick up the slack and give me draws no matter what, but I think it was still beneficial over something like having a Charmy, then Ash, and then also getting grip, because then you're down 3 cards, and if they just pass on a mid board with you having 2 cards, then you're probably not going to win. So I think just the Charmies and the Imperms were probably the best option here. So that was all that I played in terms of hand traps. Then the actual Mitsu engine. So I started out with 3 Aramasa. Now, I was questioning dropping this down to 2. And at one point, I was even questioning dropping it down to 1 in place of a few other cards I had in mind. Whoa, back again so soon. Yes, it's me, Future Nolan. So, yeah, what I was talking about here was actually the Fiendsmith engine or the Canine engine. I originally was going to play a giant mix of Nadir, a somewhat slimmed down Mitsurugi engine, and then fit in like a 5 or 6 card Canine engine, which was going to be 3 Izuna, 1 Lupus, 1 Case, and 1 Forced release. But I didn't go through with it, and honestly, I'm happy I did. I'm happy I did not actually go through with that in place of the 3 Aramasa and kind of just maxing out on most of the Mitsurugi cards here. Ultimately, I went with 3 because the logic was simple for me. I wanted to see as many Habakiris as possible, and Aramasa itself is in fact a 1-card combo. You normal this, you search Habakiri, use Habakiri, you summon out Saji, tribute Saji, search prayers, and then you go through the typical line with, or not prayers, ritual. Then you use the ritual spell, which is Mitsurugi Ritual, to summon out Habakiri. You get the ritual back from grave with Kusanagi. You tribute the Habakiri on board, summon out Murakumo from deck. And again, you do your searches, you do your lines, plus whatever else you have in your hand. So Aramasa was definitely a 3 of at the end of the day. Saji, no argument here. She's a 2 of, and Kusanagi is a 1 of. I don't think I need to explain those ratios. I think 3, 2, 1 for a pure, mostly pure version of this is the way to go, because again, you want to max out on seeing Habakiri. You want to max out, or not max out, but almost max out on seeing prayers or ritual. But that's really all Saji is our 2 additional copies of prayers or ritual. So that way you're running 5 of each, right? Because it's 3 and 3 running 5 of each. If you're playing 3 ritual, I didn't play 3 ritual. I only played 2, so it's like running 4. Overall, Saji was great. Kusanagi is sort of your, and I'll say this loosely, like an infinite loop. He was really good getting stuff back from the banished pile. Stuff was being banished all day. On my end, people want to get rid of my cards, obviously. Yeah, so let me clarify here before someone goes like, but Nolan, it's not an infinite whoop because it doesn't whoop infinitely. Shut the fuck. I know. That's why I said loose. What I'm trying to say is Kusanagi was the only card really in the main deck that grants you access to cards that have already been used in your grave and banished. So if you need to keep looping him to get resources out from your banished pile or graveyard to keep your plays going, then at least you have that little bit of accessibility to afford you better plays. And Kusanagi, summoning him back, there's a sort of loop to it, but there's a card in my side deck that served as an even better loop, honestly. In some part, maybe even better than Kusanagi if I knew I was going first specifically. So that's it for the little dudes. Big guys, I played 1 Wusu. This card single-handedly won me games that I probably shouldn't have. Wusu was clearing boards all day. I love the fact that you can add it back from graveyard, that you can reuse it, for another turn. If it leaves the field, you can Kusanagi, search it back. You can summon it off of Futsu. There's a lot of utility with Wusu, especially because it's a level 8, so that is a good tribute fodder for your ritual summons. As I said before, I played 3 copies of Habakiri. I really shouldn't need to explain this. Habakiri is the heart and soul of the deck right now. Whether it's at 3, 2, or 1, you're going to be playing however many copies until it's banned. And then I did play 2 copies of Murakumo. Both copies came up throughout the entire event through most of the matches. Being able to use one as fodder, being able to use the other one to blow up boards, to search, to have something to search off of something like Habakiri or Futsu or something else if something was tributed, just being able to keep rotating. And Murakumo threatening having both on board, one to use as fodder or Raigeki or to use as a negate, and the other one just as a big beat stick. It's wonderful. And then I did play one Futsu, probably the next MVP, probably the GOAT of this entire event. I cannot tell you how many games I actually got into a bit of a grind with where Futsu was all that was left on board, and they kept forgetting every single time that Futsu specialed. And then the little guys in the back here, they all have effects to tribute themselves inherently without activating to protect cards, Mitsu cards that you control from being destroyed monsters. So being able to summon out these little dudes, then tribute them, and then search with them or recur with them. Futsu was great all day. This card, along with Wusu, also won me games that I otherwise would not have won just because of the near infinite loop in terms of resourcing that it allows you, and big defense. Now we're going to move on to the spell. So Mitsurugi spells, played one Magatama. This card was great. One Mitsurugi Mirror. This card is mandatory now in any Mitsurugi kind of build. Magatama was great for me because I'm playing a mostly pure build, so I can ritual summon on their turn to proc Murakumo's Raigeki effect, or I can use it as a pop going second. 3 copies of Prayers, as many copies as there are available, you're going to be playing them. 2 copies of Ritual and 1 copy Purification. Ritual is at 2 because 3 is too clunky. 2 is perfect, especially 1 gets banished. Purification was great in this mostly pure build because it's not just the first effect to negate and destroy that comes up. It's actually the second effect to banish it in order to tribute another monster you control and special summon a different reptile from graveyard. That card effect came up a lot because when I would banish it, I would normally summon out Murakumo to Raigeki or Futsu to defend wall myself. The greatest part was using it in tandem with Kusanagi, because when you banish it and you're able to get Kusanagi out, you can retrieve the purification and keep that loop going as well. There are many kinds of like semi-infinite loops in this deck where it's not infinite in terms of running out, it's infinite in terms of spamming. So Purification was great, the Kusanagi loop was great. I don't think I'm going to change any of these ratios with the spells or traps for the Mitsurugi engine. For the Nadir package, I played 3 Servant, 1 Maximus. That's it. That was it. Very simple. And as simple as it was, people played right into this stuff all day. Nadir Servant sending Entis to search, Entis blow up a problem card, then summon out Maximus, Maximus send 2 cards in order to blow up 2 more cards, and Maximus with its level came up today, actually, or that day, twice with Magatama to tribute it and summon a reptile, a virtual reptile. That was great because it's a level 8, and if I had another Nadir Servant, I could activate it again and retrieve the Maximus back from the graveyard. So this package worked great. It was great as a starter. It was great as an extender. It was also great for breaking boards, right? What we also have to keep in mind here is 3 Nadir Servant is 3 more copies of Habakiri. Welcome back to Nolan of the Future. So I want to take a moment to talk about this card, Mitsurugi Magatama. Specifically, obviously, as you can see, the text that is highlighted, where it says, Ritual summon 1 Mitsurugi ritual monster from your hand by tributing monsters you control whose total levels equal or exceed its level. You can only activate 1 per turn. This came up often, where I would have a Maximus left on board because when you activate Nadir Servant and you search Maximus, you're locked out of the extra deck. So I would often have a Maximus left on the field and a Futsu, Habakiri, or a second copy of Murakumo in hand. So I would set this Magatama and ritual summon using the Maximus on my opponent's turn for whatever I need to get out of my hand. And then during my next turn, I would use maybe another Nadir Servant, for example, to grab another copy of Maximus or the same copy of Maximus out of the graveyard, using my extra deck more as resources, as a toolbox, for board wiping or getting other cards to hand, Just an overall great card. I don't think I'm ever going to take this out as far as right now goes, unless, you know, better wave of support comes along that could replace it. But I really like this card. I think it is a good addition, and it served me well in that exactly specific purpose throughout the tournament, where I attributed Maximus maybe twice, 3 times in all my games. It wasn't often that I ended with Maximus on board, but it was often enough that the secondary effect of Magatama was actually decent. Oftentimes, Maximus would be, you know, whether it was negated or destroyed, or if it was Nibiru'd, you know, something would typically happen to it. But for the times that it was on board, it served a dual function in that essence. Because if you're able to, right, you send Entis, you grab Maximus, and if Maximus resolves, you're sending a Herald and a Garura. You're going Chainlink 1 Garura, Chainlink 2 Herald. You're grabbing something like Habikiri, then drawing a card. So this is also 3 more copies of Habikiri, just the long way. Next, 3 copies of Pre-Prep. This is pretty self-explanatory. It's another 3 copies of Habikiri. It's another 3 copies of Futsu or Murakumo. Great card, and being able to get Mirror and not have to search it is also a big plus. 2 Pot of Extravagance. I do not care about my extra deck. I barely use it all day. What you'll see later in this deck profile is that there were only really 6 cards that I used the entire day. Thrust, Talents, Call By. All 3 of these came up the entire day. Thrust was great when I was being negated, or if I, you know, most of the time I would have something like a Habikiri or a Murakumo on board, then they would draw me at some point. That happened twice, and then I would thrust to set the Great Purification, the Omni, which was great. That was an immediate threat among whatever else I had left. That's typically how I also won games off of that. Talents. This was, you might as well have just called this Psy-Frame Lord Omega. I was ripping cards out of people's hands all day. I think I ended up having this like, I don't know, out of 20 games total. I think I had it 7 or 8 of those games. And I think only once or twice I would actually draw 2. Every other time I was either ripping cards out of hands, and I think one other time I stole. I remember this. I did steal a Vanquished Soul monster, and I used it as link material for Dynamundo to clear another Vanquished Soul off the board, and then I blew up their next board on their turn with Murakumo and won that game. So that was really cool. Talents being a way to not only clear a board, but to facilitate a Dynamundo summon. And Call by the Grave is just Call by the Grave. You just need it. And it came up once, twice maybe. The extra deck. This is pretty simple because, like I said, you're playing all 2-ofs at the end of the day. In the entire deck, you're just playing 2-ofs. There's only a few 1-ofs, for example. So IP Masquerena, that was just to facilitate some Dynamundo plays. 2 SP Little Knight, and 2 copies of Dynamundo. That's all I played for Link Monsters. Again, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Now, again, the ban list is going to change the extra deck a little bit because of Herald, but you'll see that in a second here. So that was it for the links. We're going to move on to the fusions. 1 Skull Knight, 1 Garura, and then I played 2 copies of Entis. So nothing's going to change with that ratio. Now, I would like to issue a formal apology for using these disgustingly abhorrent gold rare Elder Entity Entises, but I don't know where my rarity upgrades are, because I think I got secret rares. Don't know where they went. And so I was left with these grotesque looking abhorrent abominations that H.R. Giger has feverish nightmare dreams of. So, sorry for that. 2 Entis was great for board breaking, Garura for going first, Fossil Warrior Skull Knight was in case one of the Entises got banished off of Pot of Extravagance, so that way I could have another form of a pop. And this one's also good because when it's in grave, it forces your opponent to act before you activate Skull Knight, or else they're just going to lose stuff. For Xyz, I played 2 Typhon, only went into this once today, and it was okay. It was 1 King of the Feral Imps. Obviously, this is banned now, so we're going to have to change this with something else. And then for Synchros, I played 2 Herald, 1 Omega. I didn't use Omega at all, but I did use the 2 Herald. Now this is at 1. So the other card is just going to have to be Cloud Beast Malong or the other level 7 Cyberse Wind Pegasus Agonister is probably what I'm going to do to replace these 2 cards. I'm going to put in Cloud Beast Malong for one of the Heralds, and the Wind Pegasus Adagnister for King of the Feral Imps. And that's it for the extra deck here. In terms of the cards I actually used, which I think is important to note, the only cards I actually used the entire day were obviously the 2 Herald. I used 1 Entis pretty much the whole day. The Garura. I used 1 SP and 1 Dynamundo. Everything else down here that I have is really just whatever you want to make of it, whatever you want to do. But these 6 cards were used all day, these 6. And obviously, like I said, I'm going to have to replace this with Malong or Wind Pegasus. Then the side deck. I played 3 copies of Solemn Strike. If you know you're going first, this card is insane. So usually if I would lose game 1 or if I lost game 2, whatever it was, I would side these in, and these helped a lot. This stopped many Holly Sues, many Raisins, many Borgers, many Jokels and Izunas. This card was 3 Dominus Impulse in the side, because if you know you're going second, then you're siding out the Nadir package, and I'll explain that. 1 Evenly and 1 D-Barrier. These are pretty self-explanatory. 1 Evenly because it's searchable off of Thrust, and it came up twice. Spells, Harpies, Geki, Lightning Storm, 3 Book of Eclipse, and special guest here, 1 Sacred Boundary. This card was great. If you know you're going first, this card was wonderful. I was getting Nibiru'd a lot during the games when I decided to go first. And after they would nib me, I would activate Sacred Boundary. I would shuffle back a whole lot of cards, tribute their Nibiru, so that way it's a monster off their board. And then most of the time, I still had enough gas to keep going. So it gets their Nibiru off the board. It recycles a bunch of my cards, so that way this enacts the infinite resource loop. And typically, like I said, I was able to just push through and put up even a mid board of something like a Murakumo plus Purification set. Maybe an Infinite Impermanence. Maybe something else, pass. A good mid board through nib with infinite recursion. This card was great. I'm not going to take this out. I really like Sacred Boundary and its protection from targeting with special summoned extra deck monsters. Book of Eclipse won me my last game, by the way. I played against Vanquish Soul Canine, and it served the purpose well. So when you're siding out for going first or second, mostly second if you're taking out the Nadir package, or if you're playing up against a deck like, for example, Vanquish Soul Canine that doesn't really care about the Nadir package stuff because they can avoid targeting pops, what I would usually do is put in the 3 Impulse, and then I would put in the Sacred Boundary, for example, and then I would take whatever set of Charmies weren't going to work well and replace them. It depends if you're going first or second, but, you know, be the 3 Solemn Strike if I'm going first, or the 3 copies of the one-ofs if I'm going second. And if I didn't even want to put in Sacred Boundary, if I'm going second, I would, for the Nadir package, I'll take out the Nadir Servants for these 3, take out Maximus, put in Evenly Matched, because I run Thrust in the main. So that was my siding pattern all day, depending if I was going first or second. And then the other 5 cards in here, again, were more situational to what the actual deck I was playing was. So D-Barrier really didn't come up at all today. I only sided it in twice against Yummy. That was it, and I didn't even see it, so it was useless. Book of Eclipse, I sided in as much as I could with Vanquish Soul, but I only saw it once throughout the day, and that was in the last game. And again, Sacred Boundary was if I knew I was going first and I knew they were playing really good cards like Nibiru, then if I thought I was going to get nibbed, I would side this in, shuffle my stuff back, and try to push through, which, again, did serve its purpose. It did happen several times. So, yeah, that was the siding pattern. And it served me well. Can't complain. It did serve me well. So that was the deck. I hope you enjoyed the profile. Like I said, it was just a little bit more in-depth than what I went through on the Team Takeover channel. I think this is going to be the deck that I continue to play going forward. I'm not really going to be playing meta anymore, and I don't really want to buy anything in terms, newer stuff after Doom of Dimensions. I think I'm just going to stick to the decks I have now, and I'll probably stick to Mitsurugi until, parts of it are hit on a future ban list, which is, I think, inevitable at this point. So that's it. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know if you have any suggestions or questions down below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in another video. Thanks. See ya.